Welcome to tonight's live stream. I'm going to get started in a few minutes. I just want to let everybody know that the stream is getting ready to go on. What's going on, Steve Wallamack? What's going on, Luciano? Glad to see you here. Okay, I am going to get started right now. Now, before I go into tonight's topic, I want everybody to head over to the Cash App to drop in a donation because that's how I stay on the air. So I really appreciate if you head up to the Cash App. And I'm going to get started right now. Now, tonight's topic is talking about this WAP, this video that Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion made, which stands for Wet Blank Private Parts. And I'm talking about how this relates to the mainstreaming of prostitute culture here in America. Now, when it comes down to this video is just another effort to socially engineer the idea that being a prostitute is something that is viable for little black girls, because this video is designed to socially engineer the idea that being a prostitute is correlated with black women. And that's what this whole video is all about. It's about trying to program an idea in little black girls' minds that prostitution is a culture that they should see as normal. Prostitution is a culture they should see as acceptable, and that prostitution is perfectly fine for a black woman to participate in, because this video is one of many that have been directed towards the black woman. And this video is another onslaught directed at promoting this prostitute culture at young black girls. Now, this is nothing new for the image of black women. People have been trying to push this type of narrative on black women for years. I mean, I can go as far back as the 1970s, where they were doing the blaxploitation era, and they were hypersexualizing the black female image. And this is something that, again, is designed to socially engineer the idea in a black girl's mind that this is perfectly fine for black women. But we all know that this isn't normal behavior that any man would want his daughter to participate in. And that's a critical question I propose to many people who want to defend this abomination calling itself a music video. Would you want your daughter out there talking about how she has wet private parts and how her only asset to offer the world are those private parts? That's the critical question I want to ask those producers who made that video. and the people who support that video, do you want to be defined by your crotch? And do you want your crotch to be the only thing that people see of value? Because that's what Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion are promoting. And when they promote that image, they lower a woman's value down to what's between her legs. And when you hear all of these feminists, they'll sit there and talk about how this isn't, that women shouldn't be demeaned, but how is this empowering to women? That's another critical question I want to ask all of these people who support this video. How is this empowering to women when you have two women practically promoting themselves as only having value for having private parts? That's the question I want to ask these people who sit there and support this whole music video, so-called music video. Great to see you here, Nightingale Wednesday Nightmare, Computer Robots, J. May, Jonathan Neal, D. Woodward. But I look at this abomination calling itself a music video, and I see it again as another salvo directed at Black women, but I also see it as another component in a culture that has been promoted about Black women, I say as far back as the late 1960s with the feminist movement, and even before then with the image of the Black Jezebel created by the white slave master, and the image of the sapphire designed by the white slave master. And basically what we saw in that so-called video was a repackaging of those old stereotypes of the mammy, the Jezebel, and the sapphire. And I'll go into those three caricatures because they are major essential components of white supremacy. And white supremacy created these stereotypes so that they could have an ideal image for Black women to follow, so that they could be beneath the image of the white woman. So what white supremacy wanted to do was create this caricaturized image of a Black woman, and these three stereotypes make white supremacists feel comfortable when they see these three caricatures. Now, the first one they have is the mammy, and the mammy is an asexualized older woman who is just there to do the bidding of the white supremacist and is there to go out here and just be loyal to the white supremacist. She's basically an older woman who feels so loyal to white supremacy, she will practically give her own life and her own soul for white supremacy, and she'll sacrifice her own children for white supremacy because she feels so much love for this white man. She'll do anything for him, and she's basically so brainwashed into white supremacy, she just sees white people as gods. And that's the mammy, which is one of the older caricatures as the slave narratives that white supremacy wants people to follow. And then we have the sapphire, who is an emasculating Black woman who goes out here and cuts down the men. And whenever white supremacy needs her to do some dirty work, they go get the sapphire to do the dirty work because she is so mean, so vicious, and so cruel. She'll make sure that things get done. So whenever white supremacy wants to get their hands, keep their hands clean and want some dirty work done in the Black community, they go find a sapphire or usually a mammy to go do this dirty work, but they usually get a sapphire to go out here and do the dirty work. And then when she does the dirty work for white supremacy, they reward her with some crumbs from the master's table, one of these jobs, a promotion at one of these jobs, and they keep her as an enforcer to do anything that needs to be done, because her job is primarily to enforce the policies of white supremacy in Black communities and make sure that these Negroes are kept in line. That is what a Sapphire does. Her job is to cut these men down and break them down. That's part of her job. And her job is to make sure that the women are kept in line and follow her. Now, the third one, which is where your Megan Thee Stallion and your Cardi B are a part of, this is the Jezebel. Now, the Jezebel is designed to be a caricature designed to present the black woman as hypersexualized and designed to present the black woman as sexually promiscuous. Now, this caricature was designed so that the black woman could be seen as having a lower social value than the white woman. And the whole idea of this Jezebel caricature is designed to present the black woman as someone who doesn't have any humanity and just lives to be sexual. And there have been many examples of Jezebels throughout our society presented in white supremacist media as related to the black female image. And your Cardi B and your Megan Thee Stallion are just another one of those images presented as related to the black female image. Now, I took a chance to watch that video this morning, and I have to say I was absolutely disgusted by that WAP video, because that WAP video, as I was watching it, my spirit was practically troubled by what I saw. I mean, I practically felt like I saw the devil in that video. I mean, that's the presence I felt. I just felt a satanic presence in that video, listening to these women talking all about their private parts. I mean, the whole video, its imagery, its presentation of the black woman, it was practically like a demonic imagery, demonic visuals, demonic tone. I mean, there was this tone in the song talking about whores as, you know, one of the beats. It was just troubling to listen to. And I was sitting there, it's like, this is not music. This is about indoctrinating young black girls into this culture and making them believe that this culture has a social norm. And this is why this kind of music, so-called music, because I can't call that music. Michael Jackson is music. Prince is music. Susie and the Banshees is music. This is about getting people brainwashed and getting young black girls brainwashed into buying in to this whole whorehouse mindset and indoctrinating them into this dysfunctional frame of thinking at an early age. Because for every generation, they always try to indoctrinate young black girls into this whorehouse culture and this prostitute culture. The first generation we saw coming out of the civil rights movement were the black girls who bought into the blaxploitation era and those who brought into the feminist movement. And the feminist movement sold this idea to black women that being this independent woman who had control over everything about herself, including her sexuality, was this social norm. And they promoted this from the 70s to the 80s. And then when people were coming out of that into the 90s, we got Little Kim coming in because they saw that a lot of black women were starting to follow positive role models like your Claire Huxtable, like your like the characters on A Different World. And they were seeing these positive images of black women, like these rappers like Queen Latifah at the time, and many of the black female rappers who were rapping about positivity and rapping about empowerment. So they wanted to get the black girls back on the white supremacist platform and pushing the white supremacist narrative. So we started to see the push of this sexualization as related to the black female, as hip hop got hijacked by these people in Hollywood, and they started pushing this hypersexualized black woman like your Little Kims and your Foxy Browns. And after they started pushing them, to the mainstream with these blonde weaves and these wigs and these prostitute type outfits. Again, this was all about trying to sexualize the black woman and lower her social value in society. And this was about trying to teach people that the black woman had a lower social sexualized value. And this was correlated right around the time with these videos, not videos, these books like talking about Terry McMillan talking about I Can't Find a Man. Again, this is all about trying to brainwash an idea in young black women's minds that they are less than, they are second best, and that they don't really have any value to people. And it's about trying to lower the self-esteem. So this is a war on the mind of the young black girl going on in the 90s. You have all of these books and TV shows telling the black woman, oh, you can't find a man. There are no good black men. And then in order to get the attention of these men, you have to present yourself in this debasing and demeaning way. And that this is what men find attractive. This is a lie that has been presented as related to the black female. And this has been going on again for a good 40 years. And we started to see, again, we started with the feminist culture, the blaxploitation, and then we started to go into, after the 90s was over, we started to see a campaign to start mainstreaming this idea and making it a social norm. Now, from the 70s to the 90s, it was kind of a cultish culture as related to this sexualization of the black woman in media, but it didn't start to mainstream itself. It didn't start to mainstream itself until 2001, when your Halle Berry decided to star in the movie Monsters Ball. And when Halle Berry decided to star in the movie Monsters Ball, that's when the fringe image of the prostitute and the prostitute culture became a social norm for black women and black girls. Because once Halle Berry starred in Monsters Ball, we had an A-list star participating in this prostitute culture and an A-list star bringing this prostitute culture to the mainstream. And moreover, once Halle Berry won the Oscar for Best Actress in Monsters Ball, this cemented the culture of the prostitute black woman as an ideal for black women to follow. Because in that film, we had the image of the black female prostitute presented as a mainstream film by a black producer, Lee Daniels, 1, and 2, we had Billy Bob Thornton, a white man, presented as the one who said he was going to take care of this black woman, Letitia Musgrove, in Monsters Ball. And when many black females saw this white man going out here and taking care of this black woman, it made it where they started to see this image as something that would be socially acceptable. Because before them, you had Little Kims, the Foxy Browns. They were on their own, and they were only being supported by a fringe group of black men in the community who listened to their music. But this image of Halle Berry with this white man made this an image that many black women found to be acceptable. And with Halle Berry receiving critical acclaim from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, getting an Oscar for Monsters Ball, that opened the door for the mainstreaming of prostitute culture in the black community. Because once that was done, that practically made it where this was validated by white people, this was accepted by white people, and sadly, many brainwashed black people bought into these ideas, and many black people who didn't understand the media attack on them thought that this was perfectly fine behavior for them to participate in. So this opened the door for the promotion of prostitute culture. And we started to see a complete change in media overall. So we went from the Claire Huxtables of the 80s, the Girl Next Door, the Denise Huxtables, the Laura Winslows, the Black Girl Next Door, like Sydney and Shireen and House Party. We went from these type of images of Black women, and we started to and the Joan Claytons from Girlfriends, and we started to devolve into this hyper-sexualized image of the Black woman. And we started to see a repackaging of this Jezebel, and we started to see a repackaging of this Sapphire caricature in our mainstream media. And we started to see a complete push of the Black woman with the white man, something we hadn't seen in the 90s and something we hadn't seen, again, for about 20, 25 years. And we started to see a repackaging of these swirl type relationships and as related to Monsters Ball. And again, this was all about promoting the prostitute culture because we never got to see intelligent, working class Black women who wanted to pursue relationships with Black men after Monsters Ball. If we notice in media, we started to see, again, a continued push of this hypersexualized Black woman. I mean, we saw it on Girlfriends. We started to see it in The Game. We started to see it in many types of shows. And we also started to see a push of this swirling as related to relationships. Instead of us seeing a Black man pursuing a relationship with a Black woman, we started to see Black women going out here and having relationships with white men, Hispanic men, Asian men in many mainstream projects. Like after that, like Hawthorne, Family Law, they would always push these types of relationships to the forefront in many of their programming. But they would always present the Black woman not as anybody the guy was serious about. She was either a side piece or a fantasy. It was never presented as a serious partner in a relationship. And this imbibing of this media by young Black girls got into our culture. And as it got into our culture, what we started to see was, again, the rise of YouTube. And when we started to see the rise of YouTube, instead of us seeing healthy images of sisters out here, they were very rare. We started to see this ratchet culture starting to come up on YouTube and social media. And we started to see a lot of these videos of Black girls fighting each other. We started to see images of Black women just participating in these twerk videos. And it was all about this hypersexuality, hyper aggressiveness, and this type of media. It just showed how they were trying to promote the dysfunction of the Black female on screen, and we've seen this image of the Black woman, this promotion of this practical prostitute in social media for a good, I say, about 10, 15 years now, as YouTube has continued to go on. And we've seen it sadly devolve into different sectors of dysfunction. We've seen your Black woman doing either the twerk videos, which is one section, the fight videos, which is another section. And then we had the Black women pushing the whole swirling narrative. And then we've got this Ghetto Gaggers website, which is another form of pushing the prostitute culture. Now, the Ghetto Gaggers website promotes the Black woman as a sexual deviant and promotes the idea, again, of the Black woman being such a Jezebel that she'll practically degrade herself by putting herself out there and selling herself on screen for these men, not only to participate in pornographic sexual acts, but also to present the Black woman as, again, this Jezebel who they can practically use and abuse and practically go out here and just do the most disgusting and degrading things to, spitting on the Black woman, slapping the Black woman, and beating up the black woman, saying that the black woman is practically so worthless. She's only worth that atomic waste reactor between her legs. And they do this while they're calling her the N-word, which was one of the most insane things I've ever seen, because your white supremacist says, oh, I hate, and he says black women are beneath him, but here we have the white supremacist fornicating with the black woman on screen and participating in these debasing and degrading sexual acts. And we're being told that this is empowerment. And that is one of the most troubling things I have ever heard, is you're going to call this empowerment. You're going to say this woman debasing herself is empowerment. No, this woman presenting herself on screen like this is pure self-hatred. And when you hear a black woman sitting there talking about she has a WAP, that is pure self-hatred. Because again, you are lowering your value beneath what God made you for, and you're taking your body and you're abusing your body with mankind, because there's nothing about that that's as related to any sort of healthy relationship. This is just basically abuse of a body, and this goes against everything that the Most High teaches about a woman as her body, because again, your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. And that's why I say that this so-called video is satanic, because here you have two women sitting here promoting the idea that all they have of value is their crotch, and that every man just needs to go out here and get this crotch. And they call themselves whores while they're doing this. And this, again, is not an image they want to push in the white community. Because you notice within Kylie Jenner's part in that video, they want to cut that part out of the video because they don't want that image correlated with the white woman, but they have no problem connecting that image with the black woman. So when I listened to that whole argument about Kylie Jenner, it showed me how deep the white supremacy was as related to this video. You're gonna talk about the black woman having a WAP and talk about her being a prostitute, but you want to cut the white woman out of the video because you feel uncomfortable about it. Well, the whole thing is that the white woman is where the black woman got the ideas for this, because many of the black women who want to follow this prostitute culture, the reason why they're doing this is because they have this false idea that this will make them more like white women, because they buy into the false concept that black men want white women and are interested in white women, but they want to look and act like white women, not understanding most black men out here love black women and want relationships with black women. They don't want white women. And that's an idea that the white supremacist has put in the black woman's mind. And she has to come out of that programming and understand that that's a lie, because many black men out here, they want a black woman, and they want a black woman who respects herself, values herself, and it sees herself as having value. Men do not want to deal with prostitutes, nor do they want prostitute culture as a social norm for all of the sisters out here. So when we see a video like a WAP out here, we get disgusted by the images in that video. We get disgusted by the deviancy promoted in that video. We get disgusted by the images again and the messages presented in that type of content, because that type of content we know is not the ideal that black men want for black women. We don't want that type of filth promoted about black women. We don't want these type of ideas being pushed in our community. And responsible brothers, they're going to push back against this type of culture, because we know that this type of culture is destructive to not only young black women, but also young black girls and young black boys, because this prostitute culture is one that teaches people that they don't have value for the content of their character. They only have value for what's between their legs. And that's an idea that, again, is only promoted in places like brothels and whorehouses. That is not a value that should be taught in a community of people like black people. I mean, we should not be sitting here allowing this culture to be promoted in our community, and we should be pushing back, because this is about further reinforcing the mainstreaming of these ideas as social norms, and promoting the idea that a black woman is only worth being a prostitute, and only worth being a stripper, and worth being a sexual, promoted with sexual deviancy and sexual debauchery. This is not about promoting a black woman's sexuality, because any woman who understands sexuality, and any man who understands sexuality, understands that sexuality is something that a man and woman express in private, and it is something that they are comfortable with expressing in private. They don't need to share it with people in public. And anyone who wants to go out here and promote themselves like this over sexualization and promotion of excessive sexualization, this comes from a place of extreme insecurity. The only reason why you have your Cardi B's and your Megan Thee Stallions out here promoting themselves sexually is because they don't see their value as women in society. They don't see their worth as women, and they don't understand their value and their worth, because many of these women didn't come from homes with fathers to give them love. They didn't come from a home where they received love in a balanced two-parent household, and they didn't get that feeling of worth, from a man. So they're insecure about their ability to get their needs met, and they also have extremely low self-esteem, because when a woman brings herself down to the value of her crotch, what she does is show every man out here how low her self-esteem truly is. Because a woman who truly loves themselves, they're not putting their crotch up at the forefront. No, they're putting themselves at the forefront, because that's what a secure woman does, who is secure in herself. She's like, her crotch is not what she needs to want you to look at. She wants you to look at her face. Nightingale wants the nightmare. Thank you very much. Yeah, let's like the live stream. I mean, we got 81 in the chat, 44 likes. Let's get the likes up. Thank you, Kevin, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Yak Diesel, for the super chat. Thank you, Prodigal Son 75 for the super chat. Really appreciate it. If you guys want to donate to the super chat, you may do so. And if you want to donate to the Cash App, you can donate to the Cash App as well, because that helps me stay on the air to discuss topics like this. And we really need to delve into black women's low self-esteem, because, again, when you present your value as related to your crotch, it shows how low your self-esteem is and how deep you have as related to daddy issues. And that was something that was one of the things that inspired me to create the Esteem character, was dealing with the black woman's daddy issues. I want to do a whole video on that soon. And they sit there and they have these daddy issues, and those daddy issues are the reason why they're out there are hypersexualized, buying into white supremacy and hypersexualizing themselves, because they want to get this attention from men, because they have not been validated by other men, and they have not been nurtured by other men. When a woman is nurtured by her father, what happens is she starts seeing value in herself. When her father is there to give her that feeling of self-worth, she's not looking for attention from other men. She does not need to sexualize herself because she sees value in just being her. And that's something a lot of these Cardi B's and Megan Thee Stallions don't have. And this is the reason why many of these women are mentally messed up. I mean, they can't, they're sitting there, they don't have that male figure in their lives, and they're looking for love from another male, and they don't get that love from from their father, and they look for it from other males who only want to use this woman, and that whole creates a whole cycle where they keep looking for this love, but they never get this love. And because they don't get this love, they wind up in this vicious cycle of depression, and they're looking for different men to validate them. So that's one of the big problems with many of these women out here. They try to sell their sexuality, and again, it's overcompensating as related to their insecurities. They need to sell the sexuality because they feel like they lack in other areas. And because they feel like they lack in other areas, they go out here and think that selling sex will make them more attractive. And the person they're not trying to attract is the other man. They're trying to feel value inside of themselves. Unfortunately, because they don't feel that value inside of themselves, the insecurity just keeps building, even if they have boyfriends, even if they have husbands. The insecurity just keeps building and building because internally they never got that feeling from their fathers. Like Nightingale Wednesday Nightmare says, this culture is why 70% of Black women are single. I talk about that in the book. And yeah, I have that book on Amazon right now. You can get it in paperback. So many of these Black women follow the paradigm of failure, and they follow this culture, this storehouse culture, and it takes them down a bad road. And you can get this book. Why 70% of Black women are single is now available in Kindle and paperback now, because so many people ask me to put it out in paperback. But these issues wind up doing damage. And again, this culture of whorehouse culture is destructive to Black women and is designed to destroy the Black female, because because as the first teacher to her children, she passes it on to her children, both her son and her daughter. And as they promote this culture, what happens is you wind up with a community that becomes a ghetto. Because what happened in the old days of whorehouses is that the neighborhood around them was sleazy, it was a ghetto, it was filthy. And when you promote this culture, nothing constructive comes out of that culture, because this all you get is just debauchery and filth as a social norm. And you have a culture that does not breed people who see value in other people, because whorehouse culture teaches you that you're not a person, you're an object, and you're an object that is only valued for what's between your legs. And that is what this culture teaches, and that's what is in that song. It brings, again, a Black woman down to what's between her legs and tells us that that's the only thing that's of value about a Black woman. And this is what we've been poisoned with for a good 40, 50 years now. And many of the women who buy into this culture, they talk about this WAP, but they have no money in the bank account. They have no family. They have no real friends. And they have a net worth of $5 and a self-worth of 0. So I look at this culture and see how destructive it is. And this is being pushed in the 2020s as an ongoing attack on the Black mind. Because if you look at it again, we've gone from the Little Kims and the Blaxploitation era to the Little Kims to the Halle Berrys and the youth social media debauchery and ghetto gaggers. And now here we have Megan Thee Stallion and your Cardi B pushing this narrative as a social norm once more. Again, this is a coordinated attack on the black woman, and she has to understand she is under attack. This is not about empowering our sisters. This is about attacking our sisters, and this is about attacking our little girls and promoting these ideas as social norms. Because what they do is they get a flashy entertainer, they dress them up in clothes, and then they have them prance around on the screen, and your kids buy into it. They believe this stuff to be perfectly fine, but they don't know that they're being indoctrinated into ideas by Madison Avenue in Hollywood that are destructive to them, because what they want to do again is tell you that all your value is between your legs. And it's kind of hypocritical, because these same people who promote your Cardi B's WAP are the same woke types that talk about girl power and talk about female empowerment with white girls and talk about what they can do. But for a black girl, their idea of empowerment is always connected to a woman's sexuality. And I find that to be, again, extremely racist. And I also find it to be extremely disturbing how they always try to connect the black woman's empowerment as related to sexuality. Now, I noticed this really, again, they push this in this culture, and they've been pushing it for a good 30, 40 years. And when black men go out here and we produce media, or we have media out here, we try to elevate black women and show their beauty and their grace. And I remember the days when we had music that promoted true love, stuff like Anita Baker, stuff like Sade, stuff like Whitney Houston, stuff like Jodie Watley, that showed the beauty of our sisters and showed that black women could be part of loving, caring relationships. We don't get that anymore in mainstream media. No, all we get is debauchery and perversion, no different than what is presented in Ghetto Gaggers or can be seen on Pornhub, because that's basically what that video WAP was. It was basically a pornographic video presented as a music video. And that's the very troubling thing about Madison Avenue in Hollywood, is they're sitting there presenting pornography and then telling you it's entertainment. And most black girls aren't really understanding you're being presented with pornography as and being told it's entertainment, because all the images you saw in that movie, in that abomination calling itself a music video, that was what you would see on your Pornhub or many of these other porn sites. And if you went over there, you would see the same type of imagery, and you would also see the same types of deviancy and debauchery being promoted as norms. So a lot of black people, they look at it as some people are saying, oh, it's just a music video. No, these images are about trying to program an idea in young black girls' minds, young black boys' minds. In young black boys, you're being taught, oh, a prostitute is somebody you should consider for a relationship, and this is somebody you should pursue as an ideal, because that's what they want to do with this type of image, is promote the idea that a female predator is somebody you should pursue, and a female predator is somebody you should want to have a relationship with. And you definitely don't want to deal with women who have this stripper and prostitute mindset, because women who have this stripper and prostitute mindset don't see men as men. They see men as tools, and they see men as tools they can use to advance themselves at those men's expense. And I talk about these types of female predators in my video, in my ebook, Misadventures of Captain Save-'em. And this type of female predator is somebody who just uses people So you can get that book on Amazon.com and Kindle Unlimited, and you can get it regularly. And this is a book that if you get it on Kindle, you can read it for free. But this is a book that tells you all about these female predators, and this is the type of women they tell guys to go after. But these women will go. They see men as tools. They use men as tools, and some of them will even plot your murder. So this idea that, oh, this is somebody you should want to have a relationship with is a toxic one. And the whole idea of teaching a girl that this is an ideal image, this is something that when you really think about it, do you, again, want your daughter to learn this type of culture as a way of life, learning that her only value is what's between her legs, her only value is selling her body and letting men use her body like a toilet bowl? Do you want your daughter to learn this as a culture? I wouldn't want my daughter to learn this culture as a norm. And when I look at that video, that's what they were promoting. Oh, you can be a prostitute. This is where it's at. And I remember one of the response videos from one woman that was just disturbing to watch. She was talking about how she was using her body and had 3 kids. This was a very troubling video to watch. And her face was caked in makeup. She had bought into this prostitute culture as a social norm. And she didn't understand that this culture, it's destructive. And when your daughter learns prostitute culture, she doesn't learn how to be someone who can share love with somebody else. All she learns is how to use her body as a commodity to be used by men. And that's a really bad road to be on, because a lot of these women who buy into this whorehouse culture, they wind up on a horrific road. And I've watched documentaries about porn stars and strippers and people who have followed down this prostitute road. And these women, they think they can do this forever, but they don't understand the time is not on their side. I mean, you can start out doing this stuff from 18 to about 25, but then eventually that lifestyle is going to have an effect on you over time. What's going to happen is all of that abuse of your body with these different men is going to take a toll on you, because you're out here and you're putting all of this different DNA from these different men inside of you. You're forming these spiritual bonds with these men through these sexual acts. And because in the Bible it says when a man and a woman lie together, the two become one. So you're forming spiritual bonds with these different men and women. And what's happening is you are becoming more and more mentally unstable, because you are abusing your body with mankind. And what's happening is that you're feeling something wrong with your spirit. And a lot of these women, what they do in order to deal with the troubles in their spirit, they start drinking alcohol to escape all of the deviant and debaucherous acts they've participated in. They start taking drugs, and that makes them hit the wall even harder, and that makes them even more of a mess. And it's very horrific what happens to a lot of these women, because they go from being this so-called, dime piece or whatever it is when they're 18, and then by the time they're 25 or 26, they have practically not only hit the wall, they've hit the wall hard, like a complete wreck. And these women they're a complete mental and spiritual mess, and they are in just absolutely horrific condition mentally. I mean, yes, they will have caked their face up with makeup and they'll be still called beautiful by Madison Avenue standards, but this woman will be so mentally damaged that she'll just be a complete wreck unless she goes out here and seeks out salvation from God. I mean, she's going to be practically mentally destroyed. And that's something you wouldn't want to wish on your enemy's daughter. I mean, This is what happens to to women who are on the stripper poles and going out here doing porn. I mean, some of these women wind up so depressed, they wind up ODing on drugs. Some of them even wind up committing suicide. I mean, nobody talks about all of the suicides in the porn industry and with prostitution, and because that's just a thing that goes on regularly. These women will OD on drugs. Some of them will commit suicide because they just feel so worthless on the inside. But nobody talks about that. All they do is romanticize the ideas out here, like what Cardi B, like what Nightingale Wednesday Nightmare talks about Cardi B admitting to drugging and robbing guys, and what they had with J-Lo with the Hustlers. Again, more romanticization of this whorehouse culture. But what they don't tell you is that these women live extremely rough lives, and they don't really live that long, because many of these same women, what they do is they wind up, again, getting on drugs, becoming alcoholics, or they wind up committing suicide because they have to look in the mirror at themselves, and they have to think about all of the deviant and debaucherous things they have done to get what they've got. I mean, some of these women will have lots and lots of stuff, but they have no peace in their spirit. And most girls should want to have peace in their spirit, because when you have peace in your spirit, you have the Most High with you, and you have security in God. You're right where you need to be. And they'll sit there and talk about all of these material things that they have and all of this so-called success. But what you really have is the devil taking your soul to hell. And that's what this whorehouse culture is doing to young black girls. It's taking their souls straight to hell. It's just the devil telling them, oh, you're going to be empowered, you're going to be free, you're going to be able to do whatever you want. But then you're in spiritual bondage. And you're in spiritual bondage because you feel like you're trapped inside of this vicious cycle where all you do is chase men, all you do is chase stuff, and the stuff never really satisfies you, because your spirit, it just feels it's troubled on the inside. And that's the vibe I got when I was watching that video. And I had to turn it off because it was just, I felt just the demons inside of that video. I mean, just the evil inside of it. And again, I've watched a lot of documentaries on strippers and people in the adult film industry, and I've seen this out here, and to see this being promoted, it just troubles me, because I know how destructive it is. And to promote this to young girls, I mean, this is one of the sickest things I have ever seen. I mean, all you're talking about is some WAP again, but you're not talking about empowering these young women to say, hey, you can be better than this. Because why would anyone want to be basically told that their only value is their crotch? And that's another critical question I propose to many black girls out here. Why would you want your only value to be your crotch? Because when I hear, because I've watched a lot of the porn stars out here in documentaries, and they would say that many of the same things that Megan Thee Stallion and your Cardi B would say. Oh, it's going to be liberating, and empowering. The only reason I burp is because I have gas. They talk about the liberation and the empowerment, but then when they talk to them 2, 3, 4 years later, there's not much talk about liberation or empowerment, because how are they liberated when they're taking drugs to escape all the acts they have done that they have to deal with, and deal with all these spirits that are inside of them? And how is it empowering when you are in the bondage of drugs and alcohol? That's a critical question many people need to ask many of these women, like your Meg Thee Stallions and Cardi B's. I mean, go to talk to the porn stars, go talk to the strippers, go talk to the prostitutes. They will tell you that this isn't what you think it is. And this romanticization of these ideas is very destructive, because when you understand what is being promoted to people with this culture, it really tears down the quality of life for any young girl who gets into it. And again, they sit there and talk about the liberation, the, oh, I'm so sexual and free and open, but then later on they get into this bondage spiritually, as related to the troubles they have on the side of them that they're trying to escape. They get into bondage with the drugs, they get into bondage with the alcohol, and they wind up completely spiritually lost, and they wind up becoming slaves to their addictions. So that WAP really destroys them, because they bring themselves down to their crutch, and that bringing yourself down to your crutch can bring you down straight into a grave. And that's something that people don't know about prostitute culture. They're sitting there thinking, oh, this is so fun because they're promoting this out here in mainstream media, but there's nothing that any little girl should want to see in this video. Nobody should even want their daughters, their girlfriends, or their wives to be having this culture promoted to them, because this culture is a cancer to Black women, and it is a culture cancer to any woman who listens to this form of media. I mean, this is one of the most toxic forms of media, and it's being mainstreamed in Black communities. It's being mainstreamed as a social norm, and this whole culture, Luciano, if you can't super chat, you can always go to the Cash App. Well, let me put that there, and you can always go to the Cash App and donate through there, because that one gets to me too, so you can go through there. And yeah, it's just a very destructive culture overall, and we have to really identify it, because there will be people out there who will say, oh, this is Black culture. No, this is not Black culture. This is white supremacy pushing its narratives as related to the Black image. And you have to understand there's a difference between Black culture and white supremacy's ideals about Black women. Because what you're seeing with a WAP video, this is white supremacy's ideas about Black women. And this is not Black culture. This is not about empowering a Black woman. This is about promoting sexual deviancy as the ideal for Black women. And this is what the white supremacist sees a Black woman as. He sees her as someone who was promiscuous. He sees us as somebody, thank you, Luciano, for the donation to the Cash App. I appreciate it. He sees the Black woman as promiscuous. He sees her as perverted. And like the people on Ghetto Gaggers, he sees her as someone he can use to participate in the sexual deviancy. He can't participate with these white females that he elevates in society. So your white supremacist wants to put the Black woman at the bottom as related to her sexuality, so he can elevate his white woman to an ideal. And he likes to promote videos like this and find self-hating Black and Black associated Black people like Cardi B to promote that image, because that image fits his narratives as related to Black women. So he needs these images out here. And this type of video, it's all about pushing the idea, oh, your Black woman is nothing but a prostitute. Your Black woman, all she is promiscuous and just is out here. And it promotes the idea that a Black woman has no value outside of what's between her legs. And again, that's what this video was all about. And people think about, oh, it's just something done for controversy. No, this is about socially engineering an idea in young Black girls' minds, because they know older Blacks like myself, we know what the deal is. And sadly, there aren't enough of us out here teaching and telling people what the deal is about this media and making sure we keep our kids away from this poison that is designed to infect their minds and make them think that this is what a girl is supposed to act like, this is the way a girl is supposed to behave, and this is the way a girl is supposed to carry and conduct herself, and make a boy think that this is the kind of girl that a man would want to have as a girlfriend or a wife. And in all of those cases, that's completely wrong. And I find it interesting that they never in their media go out of their way to show you again a black woman in the role of a wife, and they never show you a woman in the role of a black woman in the role of a girl next door. They never show you a black woman in a role that she can be seen as attractive or a role model for other women to inspire to be like. They always show you this image of this black woman promoting prostitution, and they always show you the idea that a black woman is somebody who's just only worth what's between her legs. That's what they show you these over the last, I say, 20 years or 25 years. And this is very scary because we're no longer going into these images that are questionable. We're now heading into an era where we're starting to see pornography being presented as a norm or image for a black woman. And that's something, again, you should be pushing back on because, again, this video was basically pornography being presented to you, and you're being told it's a music video. So this is what they want to do, is continue to push the envelope using the black woman's image and promote the idea that she's a prostitute, she's into perversion, she's into sexual deviancy, and promote the idea, again, of devaluing and debasing the black woman, all while telling her she's empowering herself by debasing and degrading herself. I mean, what's so, again, empowering about letting complete strangers use your body and abuse your body? And what's so empowering about all of these men seeing you naked on camera or you promoting your sexuality on camera? I mean, as I see it, if you are securing yourself, you want to promote other aspects of yourself. You want people to see either how smart you are, how creative you are, how fun you are, how much of a great personality you have. I mean, these are the things most men want to see in a woman. And these are the type of values and traits that men want to see in a woman they want to make a wife out of. I mean, when guys talk about women they want to marry and have relationships with, they talk about women who are friendly, polite, and they talk about women who can do things like cook a great meal. They talk about women who have a great sense of humor. They talk about women who add value to their lives. And what value does a woman who has the prostitute mindset offer to a man? I mean, all you are selling is your body, and there's no connection to that person in any way, mentally, spiritually, or emotionally, when you have a prostitute mindset. It's a very empty lifestyle to live, and it's a very empty experience for a relationship. I mean, basically, these men don't even see your face, and they don't even see you as a human being. I mean, that's one of the other detrimental things about prostitute culture is people don't even see you as a human being. They don't see you as anybody that they see as having value in their life. And this is why some people can, like these beta males, like I talk about in The Man Crisis, this is why these kind of men who actually watch all this pornography and go out here and sometimes try to interact and participate in the deviant acts that they participate in, they will try to kill these kind of women because they don't see these women as human beings. They see them as objects, and they see them as objects that participate in their fantasies. And if the things aren't working in their fantasies, or they can't reconcile them with their smooth world, their secret deviancy. They believe it's in their justification to kill these kinds of women, and this is the type of culture again that comes out of prostitute culture. These men don't see a woman as a human being. They don't see her as having a value, and that's why it's not good to push and promote prostitute culture. Jaleel, you can get The Man Crisis on Amazon in paperback and Kindle format. I'm gonna leave a link to it in the chat, so if you want to pick it up. But in The Man Crisis, I talk about the men and how they're affected by this whorehouse culture, because these men don't see women as human beings. They see them as an object to participate in their sexual behaviors, and that's the only place they feel like they can express their natural masculinity, because these men have messed up masculinity due to the single mother households they continue in. Luciano, what did you want to ask? So these guys out here, this has an effect on men as well when you have this prostitute culture. And I talk about that in The Man Crisis, because these men are insecure about their masculinity. They're insecure about their manhood. And they grow up in these single mother households where these women are participating in this promiscuous behavior. And because they don't have a father, they don't have a model for manhood, and they see the mother being used and abused by these men, they learn not to see a woman as having value as a person. They learn not to see a woman as lovable. They learn not to see a woman as desirable. And this has an effect on the man. So people don't understand this prostitute culture is very deep and very devastating. And Luciano asks a good question. Why do normies go from prudes to sexual climbers in the process of less than 2 decades? Well, a lot of these people in America have an unbalanced view of sex and sexuality, because Madison Avenue and Hollywood don't really give you a balanced picture of it. A lot of Americans some of them are ashamed of it. And then you have people on the other side who believe that they can do whatever they want. But normal sexuality is something that people, they do in private. They understand it's about their relationship with each other, and they don't need to tell other people about it. They don't need to have all of these different partners. They're looking to have a relationship between their husband and their wife. And women who are secure in themselves, they only want to share that part of their body with their husband, and they see the greatest value as related to a relationship is being a part of a marriage. And that's something a prostitute can never have, because she has given herself to so many men that she has all this DNA. She has all these spirits inside of her. She cannot connect with this man. She cannot bond with a man. She cannot share herself with a man. She cannot even think about having any relationship, because she's so mentally damaged. She cannot really bring herself to connect with this man in any sort of healthy relationship, because her whole mind has been completely warped. And because her mind is warped, all she sees is men as tools, and that messes with her mind, and it makes it where she's impossible to have any sort of relationship whatsoever with a man. And they'll talk about, again, because they're insecure, they'll talk about all the stuff that they get, but these women long to be close to someone, they long to bond with someone, but they can never bond with someone because they just can't connect, because they have, again, when you have all these spirits inside of you from these other men, when you've become one with these different men, it pushes you further and further away, and you feel like you've got this wall inside of you, and this wall that keeps you from connecting with that person. And that's something many of the women who are a part of prostitute culture, they really don't think about, because they're thinking, oh, I'm out here and I can do just like the guys. But do you really want to go out here and be like these so-called guys? Because these so-called guys that you think that are out here and liberated and free, those are whoremongers, and those whoremongers have serious mental issues themselves. And that's something many of the women in prostitute culture don't understand, is that a whoremonger is a deeply troubled man. And the reason why he's seeking out these troubled women to have sexual relations is because this man, his spirit is so messed up, he can't bond with anyone. And he just thinks that if he continues to use his penis out here to have sex with these women, eventually he'll get close to one of them. But the problem is not a physical one, it's a spiritual one. And it's a spiritual one because he has a wall that keeps him from connecting with women inside of him. And because he can't connect, he keeps looking for more women, hoping to find one that eventually he'll connect with. But he can't connect because there's stuff wrong with him, and he needs to go work that out with the Most High Living God, and he needs to work that out as related to his spirit. Because when you're out here and you have 50, 60 women, there's something wrong with you, because, and you're not wanting to marry a woman or build a family. It shows that there's something wrong with this dude, and he needs some serious help. Because the guys who go out here and frequent the prostitutes, they have mental health issues, because you're out here looking to get sexual pleasure from this woman, and you're not even connected to anything at all, and it does damage to your mind. And a lot of guys, they think, oh, I can do this, but eventually, again, you wind up like these beta males out here. The beta male, he thinks he can he gets out here and participates in all. He starts escalating his behavior into deviancy and debauchery, and eventually he starts participating in violence, because he's, again, got spiritual issues and mental issues as related to his insecurities about sexuality. And that, again, comes from the same environment that many of the prostitutes come from, the single mother household, which creates the ticking time bombs in both of them. But the whole thing with this WAP video, I mean, this video, again, it's one of the most troubling things I have ever seen. I mean, when you feel trouble in your spirit watching some content, that it just shows me how satanic that content truly is. I mean, I looked at that and I said, you know, this type of culture, we need some pushback in the Black community regarding it, and we need some pushback, because this is not what we want our daughters to see themselves as. This shouldn't be something we want our daughters to want to go and try to aspire to be like. This is something we shouldn't want our daughters to, you know, aspire to even think about. I mean, all this, when I looked at this, it was just one of the sickest displays I have ever seen. I mean, we should be trying to teach our daughters to be respectable young women, respectable sisters, that men want to go out here and date, men want to go out here and marry. And we should be trying to promote the idea that Black women make great wives. And we should be teaching our young sisters not to be prostitutes promoting WAP, but promoting the idea of them becoming wives who go out here and help their husbands build. I mean, I'd like to see more women talking about wanting to be a wife, wanting to be a helpmeet and a support to a man, and talking about building and working with that man, sort of like what I wrote in my novel, The Thetas. I mean, women talking about wanting to be a wife, wanting to be that partner to a husband, wanting to work to build a family. And we have to go out here and cultivate that culture amongst ourselves, because we can't expect that from mainstream media. Mainstream media, they want to promote the idea of the Black woman as a prostitute, because promoting the idea of a Black woman as a prostitute makes them profits at our expense. And it also destroys our community at our expense, because they want us to show our Black women as prostitutes, because then there won't be Black women out here building Black families and going out here and being teachers of a culture under the living God. So they want to promote WAP because they don't want Black women to be wives. They don't want Black women to be mothers. they don't want black women to be a part of a relationship with a black man and a black husband. And because they don't want you to see a black woman and a black man come together and form a black family, white supremacy goes out here and promotes WAP as a way to be a black woman. And they promote this WAP as the idea of what a black woman should be, because they don't want you to see our sisters out here being teachers, being mothers, being supports to black men, being wives to black men. They don't want you to see those types of women, but we need to start going out here and cultivating those images. And that's why I go out here and again, I do books like The Thetas or books like Spinsterella and Spellbound, where I show you how this works, because we don't get enough positive images of our sisters out there. We don't get enough positive stories of our sisters out there. And mainstream media, they want to promote prostitution as the way to go for black women. And we need to push back and say, we're not going to support that. We're not going to go along with that. This is filth. And this is just it's just a disgusting piece of media. And it's a disgusting piece of media that I look at it and I go, this is just, it's again, satanic, demonic, and I could again feel the devil on that screen. And it just disturbed me to the core of my soul watching that video. And I had to turn it off in the middle because it just disturbed my soul. And it was one of the sickest things I have ever seen in my life. And it just cements how they don't want you to see black culture as beautiful. They want to go out here and promote prostitution as a norm for black women. And this is something that black men and black women, we got to push back against this, because black women are not prostitutes. Black women should not even want to be associated with prostitution. And this isn't even music. This is about programming. And we have to push back against this type of programming, because this is about white supremacy wanting to socially engineer this idea in our little black girls' minds that all they're good to be is a prostitute. And we have to say to ourselves, our black girls are not prostitutes. They have more to offer than some WAP. I want to hear about a black girl who has something to offer in terms of values, in terms of discipline, in terms of moral character, in terms of showing how she understands her biblical role as a woman to a man, and how she hopes to enrich that man's life as a helpmeet and a support to a man. I mean, these are the things that a man wants to see in a woman: an understanding of her God-given role as a woman, a understanding of the value of her role as a woman, and an understanding that while you are made to serve the man, he is also meant to work with you, and both of you working together to do God's work on this earth is the most empowering thing you could ever do, because when you're doing the work of the Most High, you are getting his favor, and that's the thing you should aspire to get, because there is nothing more empowering than the approval of the Most High living God. I mean, that's the most empowering thing you could ever have, and that's something your feminist will never understand, because your feminist, she's looking for this power from promiscuity, and she promotes this prostitute culture as a way to get power. But that power she gets is from the devil, and that demonic power she gets leads to her destruction. So our black women need to understand, look, this so-called empowerment that this white woman pushes, this feminist is pushing, this is some demonic stuff, and it doesn't give you power. Because if you look at this woman who goes out here and participates in the stripper and prostitute culture, what type of power does that woman have when she is in bondage to addiction, to drugs, to alcohol? And what happens to these women when they become older? Because that's another thing that is that a lot of the women aren't thinking about. I mean, if you look at Little Kim right now, you see the future of a Cardi B. You see the future of any woman who follows this prostitute culture. What you see, what happens to them. Because if you look at your Little Kim, she's a mental wreck, and that mental illness shows up on her physical body from the bleaching of her skin, from all of the numerous plastic surgeries. When you look at these women who buy into prostitute culture, you can see the mental illness, you can see the insecurity, because the reason why Little Kim is out here putting all of this plastic surgery and bleaching her skin is because she's damaged on the inside, and that's reflected on the outside. And that's something sisters really need to think about, is what you do want to reflect out to the world. Because when you follow prostitute culture, what's reflected out to the world is someone who is just, they become very hideous looking, because they're feeling ugly on the inside, and that ugliness gets reflected on the outside. So what you want to do, and again, Queen Jet Black makes a great point. Yeah, these women want to think that they're going to stay young forever, but we're all only here for a little time, and we're here to do God's work. And then once we do God's work, we're going to leave this earth. But these women, they want to stay young forever. They want to stay so-called beautiful forever. But that's not that was never meant to be what life was all about. Life was meant to be about two things: you building this relationship with the Most High, making the choice to have a relationship with Him, and then going on to bear children and have a family, so that you could teach about how great the Most High is and what He has done for you. That's what life is all about. But these women, they want to go out here and get this empowerment. And this empowerment, again, takes them on that road to hell. And they're sitting there with this plastic face and these insecurities eating at them. And these insecurities, these things become demons. And these demons lead to them turning into a demon themselves. So all of this insecurity that they have inside of them, you start to see reflected on the outside. And as these women get older, they start putting on more makeup, and some of them try to put more plastic surgery and still try to be what they were when they were younger, not understanding that we're all going to get old. And as we get old, we're supposed to go out here and again gain the wisdom, so we can go out here and teach our children, so that they can go on learning about how great God is. So that's what a healthy woman wants to do. And a healthy woman doesn't want a WAP. A healthy woman wants a husband. A healthy woman wants a family. And a healthy woman wants to be a part of a God-centered man and a part of a God-centered family. And we're not getting, again, this media promoting these values, because many of the people in mainstream media, they want to destroy the Black community, and they believe they can destroy the Black community by teaching the Black woman a lie that she is only valued for her crotch, and that Black men don't love the Black woman. They only love what's between her legs. And that's a lie that was told to Black women that they have to get out of their heads, because that lie is what promotes prostitute culture. It promotes promiscuity, and it promotes dysfunction in Black communities and Black families. And it promotes the idea that all a Black woman is worth is what's between her legs. And that's not the truth at all. That's what white supremacy wants you to believe. And they want you to believe this. And again, we have to push back against this, because we don't see Black women as a WAP. We see a Black woman as a woman. And we want to promote, again, images and ideas that show the beauty of Black women. And we have to go out here and do this ourselves. And that's one of the things I'm doing on the SJS Direct imprint, trying to promote positive images and positive stories about Black women. So Black women can learn that they are more than what's below their waist. They are valued for what's between their ears. And that's what we have to start nurturing in our sisters, is that they have value for who they are, the content of their character, not their bodies. Luciano asks, why do black female sex stories sell so well in Hollywood? That's because white supremacy only sees a black woman as a sex object, and they like to see those type of stories, and that's why they buy them and make them, like Monsters Ball, because this is the image they want to see. That's not how we see our black women, and that's not how we see the black woman out here. That's what white supremacy wants. Yes, black men like attractive black women, and we like to see black women in certain images that are, have some sort of sexiness, but we don't want to hypersexualize a black woman and just use her as a sex object. We see her as a person, and when a man sees a woman as a person, he wants to not just go out here and be attracted to her because she's beautiful. He's looking for a deeper relationship, and he's looking to get closer to that woman to the point where he's thinking about either making her a girlfriend, or eventually the ultimate one, which is the wife. Because when a man decides to make a woman his wife, he is basically saying he has so much respect for this woman. He sees her as a partner he can build with, and somebody who he can work with, and he wants somebody to be on his team. And that is the ultimate choice. I mean, that's part of the ultimate empowerment, again, is being a part of a husband-wife team and being in a relationship where you're a part of God's natural order. I mean, that's the ultimate goal that women should be aspiring for. I mean, that's the ultimate form of empowerment, because once you get that approval and favor from God, then you're in a far better place than being out here talking about you're doing prostitution and porn, or so-called empowered, when there's no power in that. There is power in the Most High, and there's power in God's natural order. These are things that your people out here, they don't want you black women to see, because they don't want a black woman to be a part of a black family. They want a black woman to be on her own so that white supremacy can mess with her mind and practically manipulate her mind and have her thinking of hating herself. They don't want you to see a black woman as lovable, attractive, desirable. They want you to see her as less than, and they want to brainwash you to buy into this. And this is why they make videos like this WAP and promote this prostitute culture, because this prostitute culture, again, has nothing to do with black culture. Again, like Queen Jet Black has said, they want to divide you, conquer you, and they want you to be over here chasing these ideals, and they don't want you to go out here and be a healthy woman. They don't want you to be a part of a marriage to a black man and have black children. They want you to be out here single and to be basically being used and abused by these white men, like they do in this Ghetto Gaggers and Monsters Ball. They want you to be out here being just degraded and disrespected, and all they see you as is a WAP, and that's all white supremacy wants you to be. And again, this is why black people have to push back against this prostitute culture, and they have to push back hard. And I have to take a minute and head over to Chris Brown's Omega Bukaru manga. So if you guys could put in a pledge for Chris Brown's Omega Bukaru, this is some great positive manga, and I'm working on it as an editor, so I really appreciate it. So I really want to thank, if you guys go over and put in a pledge, I want to try to get this project funded. He's got 55%. Let's get it to 60%. That would be great. And see, okay. Yeah, Queen Jet Black makes a good point. Yeah, they want black men to desire white women and reject our women. And that's a lie that they push out here, that black men lust after white women. I mean, the only black men who lust after white women are these simps and these beta males out here who buy into this propaganda from white supremacy that tells them, oh, these white women are more attractive. It's like, no, white women were the ones who created the feminist culture. White women were the ones who created the prostitute culture. And they were the ones who laid that foundation and put these ideas in black women's minds. And that didn't come from us. That came from them. And when you go out here and promote prostitute culture, again, that's promoting white supremacy to people. And that's promoting the ideas of white supremacy. And the ideas of white supremacy are about devaluing black women and devaluing black people. I mean, Amber Lance says lots of positive people in here tonight, and usually in bushes. And that's what the whole thing is. We have a lot of positive brothers and sisters out here on social media, but we don't really get to hear them and see them. And I just, one of the reasons why I do these streams, because I want to talk positive stuff and help people come out, because all we see is the negative, especially about black women on social media. And we need more positive sisters to come out here and start speaking and showing that there are sisters out here who want to have relationships, that are available for relationships, that want to be close to black men, want to share love with black men, and desire black men. There are black women out there who want this stuff, and they want to be wives, they want to be girlfriends, and we have to start pushing back against this mainstream media, this white supremacist media that teaches you, oh, you only are worth this WAP, but this WAP is not anything that has anything to do with sisters at all. I mean, this is a white supremacist idea of a black woman, and it's something that, again, black women, sisters in the social media have to push back and say, look, this is an unacceptable image. This is not the standard we want for ourselves, and this is not the standard we want for our daughters out here. We don't see our daughters as a WAP. We see our daughters as young women who can go out here and do great things. We see our daughters as women who can become wives, and we see our daughters going out here to be more than a prostitute, because a prostitute is somebody who's only there because they're doing this because they're desperate. They're doing this because they have low self-esteem. They're doing this because they have addictions. And all of these roots of all those problems come from a broken home. Thank you, Extremes Picks, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. And they like the far side of the fan says, and there are more black women who love black men, and we don't talk about those black men. Aaron, WAP means wet ass pussy, and that's just, it's the nasty statement, and it is a disgusting music video that I never want to see again. I mean, I never want to see this video again. I mean, just an absolutely disgusting, satanic, demonic piece of media. And again, it promotes the absolute worst images and ideas about black women, and it promotes the absolute worst pictures of black women. I mean, we don't see, I mean, Madonna didn't even go this far back in the 80s, and this is it's just filth as I see it. I mean, it just is something that, when you think about it, it just promotes, again, prostitution to black women as a norm. We need to say, no, that's not going to be images of our black women. Killer Side, yeah, I'm going to keep preaching this on the chat. And New York is still rough out here, and de Blasio is making a mess because he can't lead because he's a beta male leader. And this is just, again, it's something we have, as black people, have to say, this is not an image we are going to accept, and we're not going to support this. I mean, we need to give this video, I mean, not even watch it, not even support it. And we talk about empowerment and freedom. And again, what freedom do you have? Because again, I've watched the documentaries on the porn industry. I've watched the documentaries on prostitutes, as part of my research for books like The Man Crisis, and I've watched the videos on the serial killers. And what's empowering about, again, you being an addict? What's empowering about being in bondage? What's empowering about men using a woman's body? And many of these women, again, if you talk to these prostitutes, you talk to the porn stars, they will tell you a different story. They will tell you that WAP over time loses value, and that many of these women, they wind up being completely miserable, and some of them are so miserable to the point where they are brought from their addictions into suicide. And once they commit suicide, it's a very troubling thing. I mean, all you have to do is Google porn stars who've committed suicide, and you'll see what happens to a Megan Thee Stallion or a Cardi B when they start hitting 30 or 35. You start to see what happens to these types of women. I mean, Google porn stars who've committed suicide. I mean, I did that, and oh my goodness, it was like women dying at 26, 27, some of them 28. I mean, this is like what Ringo was talking about, about the woman hitting the wall at 25. When you look at the porn star who commits suicide, you will see a lot of these women dead very young, and they wind up really messed up. And you'll see it out here, and a lot of these people, they're buying into this, thinking, oh, this is something empowering. No, it's destructive. And you can see that on Little Kim's face, because Little Kim shows us the end road of somebody who buys into this hypersexualized philosophy. So when I look at this whole WAP and this promotion of prostitute culture among Black women, it's something that I'd like to see more sisters come out and call out on the regular, and really stand up against, because if we don't stand up against it, they'll keep pushing it like they have over the last 40 years. But if we go out here and reject those images, what will happen is we will wind up taking back the Black woman's image, and we will wind up replacing it with something we see as having value and something we see as having worth overall. So, yeah, Ringo talked about the succubus, and yeah, that's what these women become. They become succubuses because they have all these demons inside, these spirits inside of them, and those spirits become their own personal demons, and eventually they become demons themselves, and they wind up in bondage. So that's how a woman becomes, by buying into this prostitute culture. So I'm gonna get ready to wrap up my screen, and Skylar Dan has a great video on single mothers. So if you want to check that out, you can check that out, because we have 116 in the chat. And you can head over to her channel and check that video out, another tab, once I get ready to wrap this one up. And if you guys I would really appreciate if you pick up my book, The Temptation of John Haynes, where I talk about, a woman dealing with her demons as she's trying to tempt this man. She's trying to tempt John Haynes, but John Haynes shows her an example of the Most High, and it winds up inspiring her to change. So I want you guys to pick up this book, because it shows you how a woman can push back against the whole idea of playing the harlot. And it's a book that will inspire you and uplift you. And I want you guys to please pick this one up, along with the other books, John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose, and ISIS, The Main Event. So I have a lot of great positive fiction that is designed to inspire and uplift the sisters out there. Books that I've done, like ISIS, Imitation of Life, which is good for little girls, because it's about how ISIS helps this young Black woman who just finished school learn how to overcome racism during Jim Crow. So I write a lot of positive fiction designed to uplift Black women and present positive images of Black women, because I believe we can do better than having Black women depicted as prostitutes and depicted as, being in these pornographic images that are designed to devalue the Black woman. I mean, this type of stuff is unacceptable, and we need to demand better. And if they won't make it in their mainstream media, we'll make it in our own, like I'm doing on the SJS Direct imprint. And we need to go out here and put this type of media to the forefront, like I'm doing with, again, many of the books in the ISIS series and many of the books that I'm doing, like ISIS, the Beauty Myth. Where I make a commentary on Black female beauty. I mean, these are the type of books that we really need out here. And I'm still trying to go, again, put more positive material out there. And I can only do that with your support. So if you could donate to the Cash App, it would be greatly appreciated. And if you could donate to the Patreon, it would really be appreciated. I'm going to get ready to wrap up to this stream. And again, wish you guys would head over to get funded. So I want to thank everybody for coming out to tonight's stream, and I hope you'll be there for next week's stream.